Great. Okay. Hi. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to What the Book. Hi. We've had a bit of a break since before Christmas, so I hope you've all been reading some better books than we have, because frankly, we have not been reading great books. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert, we've not been reading great books. We are the book club that reads the rubbish so that you don't have to. Think of it as a service to your community.
You're welcome.
Yes, you are so welcome. We should maybe reintroduce ourselves. So I'll start. My name is Helen, and I read terrible books for podcasts. Great.
My name is also Helen, and I also read terrible books for podcasts.
My name is Liz, and I read terrible books outside of for podcasts. And this is Martin, who, if you hear static, it's probably him because he's a little bit of a chatty lad.
And my name's Paul. I skim read terrible books for podcasts, and then I ask my wife to give me a synopsis of the bits I don't read.
Yeah. To be fair, in this case, I've read half a terrible book for a podcast, and I'm going to be relying on the other guys to fill in the gaps.
Oh, really?
Because
That's also true of me.
Am I the only one that's actually read the entire book?
Read the whole
I think
thing?
you're the only one.
Yeah.
Did you actually get through all of it?
I did. Oh no, tell a lie. From about 34% to 50%, Paul read it, and then filled me in, and I continued from where Paul had.
Right. Okay,
I like
this
the
isn't
tag
fair
teaming.
because, if you guys are tag teaming, that is not fair. Okay, Helen, we need to
We can arrange that. Yeah.
we need to team up, and then we can read half of it each, because I'm not having that. That is very unfair. Right, let's. We did not say what we're drinking tonight.
I'm drinking wine.
I've got a cheeky little bit of port that I found in the cupboard, and I'm enjoying it in this little ceramic mug here. That
nice.
found this in a charity shop for
Nice.
£1. It was lovely.
It looks like you went on a quest for it.
Yeah, it does, but I didn't.
Quite a lot of
But
stuff
no.
in our house looks like we went on a quest for it, though.
Including the rat.
Yes.
Wait, come back here.
Okay. I'm drinking a lot of fizzy water because I treated myself to a soda stream.
Ooh.
Just to let you know, this is not sponsored by SodaStream, but if they want to give me a free machine or something for mentioning it. But yeah, I'm now drinking gallons of fizzy water, so I may need to go pee in a bit. Liz, what are you drinking?
I was drinking tea, but I've just finished it, so now I'm just stuck for the rest of the podcast.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Right, let's get on to the book. So the book we read. Oh, I thought you were going to say something, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah. Can I just jump in and announce a couple of comments we've got thus far?
Oh yes.
So
We have comments?
Yeah. So we've got my mum saying hello. So hi, mum. But we've also got what looks like our first chat bot has infiltrated our stream.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we've got Uorango9492 says, "Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers on," and then there's a link.
Oh, great.
So I reckon we should all click that link right now.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost to buy viewers?
I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah. Do a live experiment. I will give you my credit card number.
I mean, it sounds
To
good
be
to
honest,
me.
we are going to need to buy viewers.
Quite possibly. Apart from Paul's mum.
Well,
Yeah.
Did we pay her?
she's not here for free now. No, she.
How much does she got? No, let's not ask how much it costs.
Let's not.
Wow. Fame costs, and this is where we start to pay in buying viewers. Oh, I'm excited. Yes.
I think we paid having to read that book.
Yeah, also, I did actually pay money for this book. It cost me £2.93, and I am never going to get that back.
Yeah, to be fair. Although, if you buy an actual hard copy off of Amazon US, according to this, it's $17.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
In real money, that's still about 15 quid, isn't it?
Yeah.
In real money.
In real money.
Yeah.
That's £15 for. I mean, that is not £15 worth of book.
No.
It's long. Okay, it's a very long book. but I'm going to read the blurb. So we haven't even mentioned what the book
The
is. I'm
title,
doing
yeah.
such an awful job of this. Right, the book is by Deborah L Blake, and it's called The Adventures of Gingerbread Willie. Now, first off, I was quite disappointed to find out that Gingerbread Willie is just his name.
Yeah.
And I did misread it when you first suggested it, and I thought it was The Adventures of a Gingerbread Willie.
That would be a lot more interesting.
I'd have read that.
I-
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed. I'm not going to lie. I was like,
Yeah.
great. I mean, they're combining, well, one of my favourite things, which is biscuits, with something I don't have a big range of experience with, but penises. And I was like, great, this could be really good. No,
mean, it
it
couldn't
turns
be
out
worse
it is a
than-
gingerbread man called Willie.
It couldn't have been worse than Sausagey Santa, really, could it, on that front?
To be fair, oh my gosh, Sausagey Santa just. If anybody watched that episode,
That's the lost episode.
Yeah.
that is the lost episode. I believe, yes.
So I
Twitch deleted the episode, so
failed to
You
download
can't
it
blame
in
it, really.
time. They just
Yeah.
thought it was that bad. They were just like, nope, I'm not having this on our website.
if you want to know more about the books, it's called Sausagey Santa, and if you want to disturb yourself and ruin Christmas forever, read that. But
Well done.
However, I am going to say that I would read Sausage Santa 3 times over before rereading The Adventures of Gingerbread Willie.
That is a
really,
Agreed.
bold statement,
Yeah.
but I think I agree. Yeah.
Would take less time as well.
my
Oh,
issue
I
with
didn't get through
Sausagey
the whole thing.
Santa, my issue with Sausagey Santa is that wasn't that it was weird. Like I can take weird. It was boring and weird.
I don't think we can call it boring after this book, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this had science. Okay, this book has science. It's got history.
Yep.
I mean, it's educational.
I mean, I do now know a lot more about moonshine than I knew.
I know more about DNA, the topography of the canyons,
Oh, yeah.
Definitely.
and I also know a little bit of history about Native American Indians.
Should we give a synopsis of what happens in Gingerbread Willie? Because I feel like for the uneducated and blessed mind, this is now going to sound a bit weird. I mean, it is weird,
Okay.
but
Well, I'm going to read the blurb,
yes,
okay.
right.
and then I want you to tell me how you feel the book actually measures up to the blurb.
Sounds
So-
good.
Written for the amusement of adults and young adults alike, this is the story of 3 gingerbread people who are brought to life by unusual circumstances. They live at the Grand Canyon, Arizona, and each of them has a different personality. See, even the blurb is boring. The main character, Gingerbread Willie, is adventurous and decides to run the rapids within the canyon. Fanny, his evil sister, sets out to destroy whoever and whatever she can just for the heck of it, with the help of her fugitive friend, Alvin Butch Hung, brackets Albie Hung. They intend to cause mass destruction of human life. Jane is the sweet and lovely 3rd gingerbread character who spends her time between home and the canyon. Join them and their friends as they find out what life is all about, being a walking, talking, living gingerbread biscuit, which most people seem to accept as normal in this weird and crazy world of the adventures of Gingerbread Willie. So,
Yeah, I think the blurb sounds better than the book.
Yep.
I mean, it uses the word amusement, so
It
you would think,
does.
hey, it's going to be amusing.
I'm not sure I'd want young people reading it. Considering how many times it mentions him pissing himself.
And
Oh.
moonshine.
And extreme
Yes.
drinking habits.
Yeah, they are all alcoholics.
Deborah L Blake has an obsession with people pissing themselves, getting drunk, and butt cheeks. Like, properly obsessed with butt cheeks.
I agreed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, and the colours in the walls of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
To be fair, I think the number one obsession has to be the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, if you
wow.
want a beautifully descriptive, description of it looks like to the Grand Canyon.
Well,
You know,
I feel like I
I
don't
didn't
need to visit there now.
it kind of puts me off a bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the blurb. I feel like the blurb does measure up to the book in that the blurb is slightly misleading and boring, which the whole book is. I thought it started off really strongly with the story of the little boy getting his DNA mixed up with the gingerbread dough, and therefore they came alive. And I was like, okay, I can get on board with this. Went downhill quite rapidly after that.
My problem was the fact that after the kid had sneezed in the gingerbread, and she even admitted she knew the kid had sneezed in the gingerbread, she sent the leftover gingerbread people to her mate.
Where was that supposed to
That's how
have
much
happened?
she likes her friend.
I was so confused when they started mentioning that towards the end. This, like, you know, when you thought everything was done, and then there was this weird side plot about these other people.
Wait. Okay, so
20% is an epilogue.
I only got halfway through the book. There are more gingerbread people. This is what you're telling me.
Oh yeah.
Oh
And
yeah.
they're out there.
So what percentage did you get up to, Helen?
I'm not gonna lie. About 55%.
I mean, you had to read the worst bits. It gets better after about 49%.
So Helen, I think we did accidentally tag team then, because I started reading. Well, I read the first chapter and then from 46 onwards. And I will say that there is quite a lot of plot that happens after that point. It's questionable and still manages to be quite dull, despite the fact that it could be interesting. But I feel like you missed the whole thing with the voodoo gingerbread men and the murders.
What?
You definitely missed the best bits.
There's murders.
There's murders.
Okay, who dies? Tell me who dies.
Well, should we run down the whole plot then, just to give a quick kind of total overview?
So basically, I gave up when the raccoon got married. Was he a raccoon?
The beaver.
Beaver, yeah.
Beaver. Okay, I gave up when the beaver got married.
Yeah.
That was it for me. I lost. I was like, no, I'm done. The beavers got married. I'm done. Okay. Let's run down the plot. Paul, do you want to give us a synopsis of the plot?
So as we've said, there are these three gingerbread men who come alive due to someone sneezing in a mix of gingerbread mix, and then due to a very well explained DNA replicating process, they turn
We
into
definitely
this.
need to read that at some point.
We'll come back to that. We'll come back to
Yeah.
that definitely. Anyway, Willie, one of the gingerbread men, decides to go on an adventure down the Grand Canyon. The first 50% of the book is him riding down rapids. He meets a mule. He meets a beaver. That's about it. He drinks a lot of moonshine. That's pretty much it. John's just come with you, said sounds legit, and I mean it's okay. It's fine. At which point he gets back home. He finds out that his evil sister has murdered his mum. And then the whole so the whole second half of the book is this kind of murder chase as Fanny goes on the rampage, trying to poison everybody with gingerbread biscuits, and the attempt to catch her. That's up until about 75% of the way in. So the main plot ends there. After which we have about 10% more of just random backstory for some of the characters thrown in without any real reason. And then,
Epilogue.
And then a bizarre kind of epilogue about trying to track down some of the other gingerbread biscuits, which goes nowhere because
It's literally nowhere.
Yeah.
It's
Do you think she was like setting up for sequels?
I wonder, yeah.
I think with how the death of Fanny works, so like she falls off the Grand Canyon and like shatters. But then they explain that she can't, because she was never alive, she can't be killed. And they can't cremate her or bury her because she'll like poison the land around her. So I reckon they're setting that up, that, she can't be killed for sequel.
So like zombie gingerbread people.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's the most amazing anticlimax because they have all this stuff and Fanny's dead and it's like, and then they go on this like extra journey and there's a train ride, there's a plane ride, there's a hike. They turn up at this house, look through the window, see the person's alive and are like, right, should go in then. And they go, hey, well, we don't even get the return journey, it just ends.
Just ends.
It just ends.
Okay. That is a real roller coaster, isn't it? Right?
You definitely.
Is it?
The more
Is it though? Is it though?
I would love to go through it and count how much of it, in terms of like content, is just them getting pissed.
Right, on that one. So I just finished it off today, right? And I made a note of one particular chapter because there's one bit right before the final climax and the confrontation with Fanny, where it's just a scene of Willie and a couple of his mates drinking moonshine and throwing peanuts at each other. I don't know if you guys remember that scene, but
I do painfully. Yeah.
that scene. I measured how long that is. That scene takes up 5% of the entirety of the book.
Wow. But every person they meet and every animal that they meet is obsessed with moonshine.
Yep.
Yeah.
And drinks loads of it. Like the beaver.
And coffee. Yeah.
Coffee and cowboy biscuits.
Yep.
Yeah, and cowboy biscuits. But the beaver is like, he's well known for his foul mouth. Because, you know, beavers, they swear a lot. But he's well known for his foul mouth because he drinks so much moonshine. Which is why his first love didn't marry him in the first place. I got very invested in the whole beaver romance thing.
You'll like it then later in the book. I'll come back to it. Sorry, go on.
Okay. Well, no, that's kind of it. It's just like, but everybody drinks so much moonshine, then they pee themselves. And then they go down a rapid and the biscuit gets flung between the donkey's butt cheeks.
Yeah.
And then there's a mini lecture about... And then you'll get a mini lecture about history or science, like, and how the canyon was formed. And it's like, what even is this book?
I really liked one of the bits after he peed himself where it went into like a really large amount of detail about how his biscuit bum was all wet.
That was amazing, yeah.
Because otherwise it was going to disintegrate. It's like, there's no reference to the fact that it's made out of gingerbread pretty much the whole book. But right now, after he's wet himself, we're going to talk about it.
Well, that's it.
I mean,
Nobody minds.
Issues. Like the amount of times he pees himself or pees on someone else by accident. Like, so clearly he's just never been properly toilet trained.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. You know,
he's a gingerbread man. He came to existence as a fully formed man. He didn't go through the toilet training thing.
It's true.
Helen, talking about the beavers, you'll like the fact, so later on they have babies, these little baby beavers.
Baby beavers.
One of the little baby beavers gets kidnapped by Fanny, and like she threatens to throw him off a cliff. And I think that's the most invested in the entire book I got. Was like Mama Beaver going out and like kicking ass, and she like karate kicks Fanny, and her arm flies off, and then she pushes her off the Grand Canyon to rescue her baby, and her baby gets swooped down, and an eagle steals it. And it's
okay.
Invested in the beaver story.
Can we talk about the women in this book? Because one of my other issues with it is, I think it's just slightly misogynistic anyway to have Fanny being evil and Willie being like fine and great and they're like.
But Jane is just like a bit sickly sweet, isn't she?
Yeah, I think
they're not well-written women.
No, but generally the other women that we have. So Helen, you won't have read about Catherine, the spy squirrel.
I was going to mention that as a response.
Okay,
to that,
really need to read the rest of this book.
Yeah, so the squirrels team up with Fanny, but it's all the men squirrels because all the other female squirrels are at home with their babies, except Catherine, who decides to become a spy.
That was going to be my favourite quote from the book, actually. I've got the quote here. So there's this, about halfway through the book, this squirrel. Halfway through the book, this squirrel appears out of nowhere who can just do everything. Like, she's an amazing spy, she's an amazing planner, she can just kind of do everything. So my favourite quote is, she's called Catherine the squirrel. And the quote is just, other female squirrels were looking after their home and babies, but not Catherine. She was destined for other things.
But I think this is a problem that exists throughout the whole thing, because Beaver wife Becky?
Yes.
Becky.
Yeah, so her function in this really seems to be to produce children and then nag the other one for drinking to the point that he wets himself, which is fair, it seems to me, that while she's dealing with 3 kids, it would probably be nice if he wasn't just spending 5% of the book throwing peanuts at his friends and wetting himself after drinking moonshine. And then she does have a shining moment where she, like, you know, does eventually defeat Fanny, but it's only in like a mother-inspired rage. Like, there is no other way for women at any other point to feel anger. And after she shows up with the babies, Jane's whole job is to just like help with the kids. So she did sort of have a function for part of it. And then
Jane, she helps with the kids, she helps with the horses.
Yeah, she's very helpful as our Jane. But on the same side of this, all the backstories that all of the women that feature in this book are awful. They've all been subjected to terrible violence from men. That random like woman who helped Al, what's his face, escape from prison, who got strangled to death and thrown off a train.
Mary, was it?
Yeah, Mary. Yeah. And then we have Al's mum, who was also subjected to an abusive relationship and eventually escaped after being beaten up and basically trapped in our home for years. And then we have Mark Hale, who was nearly like married off to some terrible person before her mum lost her rag with it and shot the other guy in the buttocks twice.
That was quite good. I enjoyed that bit.
That was a highlight, actually. But I think that there is a general issue with women representation, and the main point that it kind of clinched it for me was when they were trying to arrest Fanny and they sent a female police officer in. And at this point, they just stopped bothering to give them names. So it just says, it's remarkable. It was like the police officer was a female. The female got chucked off the cliff or something. It's like, it's just not going to name them.
Written by a woman.
I know.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. So what would a well-rounded gingerbread woman, like, how would she be written?
She'd probably have some opinions, some preferences. She wouldn't just conveniently fit in with everything or fill into the like mad woman trope of just trying to kill people with her weird gingerbread voodoo.
Okay, so
the blokes are very well represented in this either, if we're being honest. Like,
I just think it's all
an abusive woman abuser or a drunkard that pisses themselves. Like, there's 2 options if you're a dude as well.
Yeah. Although I feel like But the Donkey goes on a bit of a story arc. So I think he kind of like, he has the best rounded out character, but he's a talking donkey that drinks too much moonshine and coffee. So, you know.
It appears to only exist so they can make the butt joke. I think
joke,
that's the main problem with a lot of this book.
What's the name of the Viper?
Vicious Vicky has a proper redemption arc. So,
oh, does she?
Yeah,
I liked Vicious Vicky, actually.
So there's
How do you write about Vicious Vicky?
So there's a rattlesnake who turns up halfway through and is kind of built up to be this massive threat, and then gets instantly caught and put in a box. And then at the end, she turns up again and saves the day. And the reason she gives for being evil was hilarious. She says something like, "I'm sorry I was
that was so good.
I'm sorry I was so evil before. I was mentally ill, but now I've been cured."
It's literally awful. I took a screenshot of it, I think.
Yeah.
Just gonna try and find it.
It was quite the quote. But yeah, she gets a redemption arc of sorts, I guess.
Basically, yeah, if you're a massive bitch, you're basically mentally ill, and if you go to a vet, they'll cure you.
So maybe that's what was wrong with Fanny. Maybe she was just, you know, off the meds.
We got context for that. So do you remember at the beginning, right, where she put the gingerbread people outside for some reason? I can't remember.
Like advertised something, wasn't it?
The fugitive came and
Albie hung.
Yeah, Albie hung. He came and licked Fanny. And yet, I think that's the whole point of this, was to make about 3 awful jokes. At that point, his DNA meshed with Fanny, which is why she became evil.
But how does licking? Okay, so it's mentioned a couple of times in the half that I read that like Willie could go through the rapids and not get wet because he'd been varnished.
Yep.
So if they've been varnished to keep them waterproof, how does licking one of them
She wasn't
get your
varnished.
DNA?
So she varnished them after that.
Oh,
So it was
I
right
thought
at
she
the
varnished
beginning.
them before she put them out because they were like going to be adverts for a hotel or
I think
her
they were
business. Or
cooling.
something.
They were cooling. Then they had the altercation with Albie Hung, and then
she varnished them. Okay. Right. Okay, fair enough. So we've heard like Paul's favourite quote. I think maybe it's time. Helen, what's yours? Tell me your favourite quote.
Ooh, let me have a look. I think I took a note of this. I think this was I enjoyed it because it was relatable, and like I mean that in a very adjacent way. This is quite near the beginning though, and it's about Ma Cahill. So she is the woman who created the gingerbread men in the first place. So it felt very coronavirus feels. So that evening, Ma Cahill was lonely. She sat on her porch wishing her moonshine making partner, Skippity Jack Moran, was there so she had someone to sit with and get totally wasted on moonshine and suck away on pickled eggs. And I thought, yeah, that's it. That's what I want.
I feel you, Ma Cahill.
Quite a few details, but I am feeling lonely and I do wish that someone was here to drink moonshine with me and suck on eggs. Maybe.
Sure.
Excellent. Okay, Paul. Oh no, we've done yours, haven't we?
I do have another quote, if you like.
Okay, well, if you've got another one, that'd be great.
I have another quote about Catherine, the female empowered squirrel who saves the day and everything.
Oh yes.
This is just one about when she's kind of infiltrated the evil squirrels and she's running a factory of squirrels making horrible gingerbread that's going to kill everyone. But it just says, she gave them breaks at regular intervals to create trust in her and keep their moral, keep their moral and work quantity in excellent condition. Firm but fair, she ran an excellent workforce.
I'd forgotten about that.
Wow.
Such a good diversion.
That's in a death factory creating cursed gingerbread. She was firm but fair.
Firm but fair in the realm of cursed gingerbread. That's good. I think that's like you mentioned that it was morale. Well, no, it was moral, not morale. Yeah. Like a lot of these, so we've read a few of these books now, and one thing that really comes across is that clearly these authors cannot afford a proofreader.
Yeah.
Because I'm feeling personally attacked sometimes by, like, I get it. If English is not your main thing, if you're dyslexic or you just, you have a blank spot about grammar, that's fine. But, get it proofread.
There was once a paragraph that ended on a comma.
Ooh, that hurts. That hurts.
That hurts on a deep level.
Really
Liz,
hurt.
favorite quote, favorite character. What do you got?
I quite like Mark Cahill's mom. So I was just finding the bit where Mark Cahill's mum finally snaps.
Yes.
And it's she's just shot someone in the right buttock, and then she's marching her husband out, and he's like, "You crazy bitch!" She said, "This is my house, and you will do as I say. Now, Anne, put the damn gun down." And she's like, Anne was in no mood for reasoning, and so and then she just walks past, shoots the other guy in the other butt cheek, and then poisons the guy with moonshine and chucks him off a cliff. And I quite like that.
Yeah.
Extreme, I know, but
I mean, she just seems like a woman of action.
Yeah. What was
Definitely.
yours then, Helen?
So there were things that kind of like got to me, like, so all of us that grew up with like the Ladybird books, there was, the story of the gingerbread man that ran away, and he was always like a little flat 2-dimensional character. And the picture on the front of the book as well seems to indicate that, Gingerbread Willie is also a 2-dimensional character. But when we're talking about him peeing himself all the time, it's like, how is that? When Ma Cahill made him, did she also make internal organs? Did she build him? Yeah, and did she roll out a tiny little urethra? That's what I want to know, because, does he have a little gingerbread bladder in there?
Maybe he doesn't have a gingerbread sphincter, and that's the problem.
Maybe that's the problem.
He pees himself all the time.
But my quote is from when he's just starting to go down one of his first creeks. And this is another great thing. So this is one of the bits of history that you kind of get. So she sets it up. Deborah sets it up, the scene. Soaps Creek is a rapid said to be unrunnable. Emery and Ellsworth Kolb, who are very famous Grand Canyon names because of their river running photography, had scouted Soap Rapid one evening in 1911. They both took a turn to conquer the rapid, only to each be thrown into the Colorado and have to swim ashore in the failing daylight. You just get these little snippets of the Grand Canyon history, which is just so out of place. And
But then he runs it no problem.
Some history.
Yeah.
And he runs it no problem on his homemade raft.
Yeah, of course he does. He's a gingerbread man. But then it's about how he was, he doesn't want to get thrown into the water because the Colorado water is thick with silt, and his clothing would become so heavy it would drag him to his death. He wore a string vest. The holes would be too large for the silt to cling to, and he wore a pair of very tight underpants which left very little to the imagination, and that's when they were dry. What has a gingerbread man got in his pants that we need to imagine?
Mark Cahill has some issues.
Mark Cahill is there, and she's got her little rolling pin. She's like, I'm just going to roll out my gingerbread Willie's Willie. I'm just going to get him some nice tight butt. I like.
As well, how big is her oven? He's
good question.
3 foot long.
Yeah.
She's an industrial baker, right? As well as her moonshine business.
Maybe. Because he can't be if she was going to prop him up by the side of the road to advertise her business or whatever.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be normal gingerbread size. They'd have to be huge, wouldn't they?
I just remembered another highlight. I was looking through the quotes that I highlighted on here. And I think this is also worth talking about. So this was just after things had started to turn a bit sour. He's just come back from the canyon. He gets to that random hotel that I don't know the relevance of because I skipped to 45%.
Yeah, there is no relevance.
Oh, cool. Fair enough. I don't really know why I'm surprised at this point. So they learn that, shockingly, Fanny has been probably up to no good, but they are very clear that this is all circumstantial and they do not have any real evidence. But 2 people have been taken to hospital, and this is the kind of description that you get about it. At first, it was thought that they had been fighting one another. They were a couple, but it was totally forbidden to argue and fight in the kitchen in case the guests overheard, and anyone who did so would be dismissed immediately. They were planning getting married, so losing their jobs would have been out of the question for them. Anyway, who would be so incensed with someone they loved that they would stab them in the thigh in a potentially fatal area? Really captured part of the whole experience for me, which was run-on sentences and a weird kind of train of thought where just could have gone off on one so it could have been that they were fighting each other, but also not, because that definitely would have made them lose their jobs and that would have been their priority. But wait a second, I just said that they were married, thinking about getting married. Maybe they wouldn't have inflicted equals. I mean, how would that even have worked? Because they both had a stab wound on their thigh. So in this argument, this couple's tiff that they were having in the kitchen, despite the risk of getting fired, they would have had to, at the same time?
People get matching tattoos.
Yeah, maybe it's look, I'll stab you, you stab me, we'll be together forever. I think I know people like that. I just found my other favourite bit, and it's when some of the non sort of main players and side characters get introduced, and it's about a bunch of people that they meet on the river, and there were 7 young men all drinking alcohol and smoking.
Shocking.
They drifted past William Butt being the donkey. One of the men said, "Hey dudes, look at this, a raft with a biscuit and a donkey on it." Now let me read that again because there's no comma. "Hey dudes, look at this, a raft with a biscuit and a donkey on it." Butt hated being called a donkey and was not amused. Willie thought they were rude and silly. He also knew the word dude was a name given to city folk who never left the city, and these guys were not wearing suits, and they were not in the city, so why were they calling each other dude? They were obviously ignorant too. Unless it came out of a book, Willie could not comprehend it. He didn't know that some words over time evolve into other meaning, mainly because they used as slang. Bert told Willie that dude was a word that was used as a term of greeting in this day, sort of cool. Willie looked puzzled. He explained again it was more a laid-back way of speaking to someone or greeting them. It was not seen as rude, and it was okay for him to call people dude if they used the word himself.
I'm so glad she took a moment to explain slang to us, because I was lost. I was completely lost at that point.
Yeah. I mean, I'd been like, dude, is that a good word? Is that a bad word? I don't know. Okay, so I think we've established that this book is
a bit of a slog.
I have to apologise. I actually had this recommended to us by someone, because I was like, I'm a bit concerned by how questionable our previous reads have been. And so I had it recommended to me by a friend who said it's got a lot of innuendo, but it's a good book that is fairly free of inappropriateness.
I mean, I'll grant you it was very clean.
Yeah, I just sure about the good book part of it.
Yeah, by page 100, I was thinking it probably would liven things up. If that's
like 10% of the way in, I was like, I mean, good Lord.
The problem wasn't actually the plot. It was the style of writing. Sorry, Deborah, but I think you could have done. I think editing would have been your friend.
Yes.
And
proofreading.
And it kind of almost gave the impression that it had been dictated by a 6-year-old.
Yes.
Minus the moonshine.
And she thought, oh, I better get some education in here. So she put in all the history and the science and the geography sort of stuff to I'm going to educate as well as entertain. And I think, So what would you give it on a scale of, I know, 5 Willies being good, 1 Willie being bad? How many Willies would you give this?
What was the bad one? 1 Willie.
1 Willie. 1 Willie for bad, 5 Willies for good.
Slightly less than 1 Willie.
Yeah.
Slightly less than 1 Willie.
Wow.
A very small Willie.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that's about right, to be honest. 1, if you're being generous for the... No, I'm not being generous. No.
The voodoo gingerbread man thing could have been interesting in other hands. I'll grant her that. So, Helen, you'll have missed this part, but she added a piece of DNA to a gingerbread version of the person in order to kill them. That's, adjacent to interesting. It's just that it's quite hard to get past the run-on sentences.
Yeah.
And
do you think
we focus in on details that are so mundane?
So mundane.
To stuff that is actually happening.
Do you think the subject of a DNA infused gingerbread, well, triplets they are, in the hands of the guy who wrote Sausagey Santa, do you think it could have been just so much a better book?
Yes, in some ways. More disturbing in others. I wasn't disturbed by this book, which is something, but I was not entertained.
I want to rewrite this book in the style of Sausagey Santa.
Ooh.
All right, Liz, if you do that, we will definitely review it on this podcast.
It'll probably take you about half an hour, because they're not long books, and you don't have to worry about editing, so,
Yeah, that's true. Or spelling.
Yeah.
On speech marks all the time. Most of the time, sure, but if you're feeling lazy, sack them off.
Yeah, don't need them.
Okay, cool. Who's got... Liz, you've got details of our next book, I believe.
I have. And I have to say I'm actually quite excited about this one, which is a nice change. So, in honour of the fact that tomorrow, fingers crossed, nothing horrific happens, Biden will be becoming the President of the United States of America. Woo! Go Joe Biden. We are going to be reading Hope Never Dies. The sort of a fanfic. Hope Never Dies, an Obama-Biden mystery. So it's For everyone nostalgic for the Obama-Biden administration, Hope Never Dies recasts the president and vice president as amateur sleuths in a quirky mystery adventure. He's an honest man in a city of thieves. He has no patience for gruff foolishness or malarkey. He is United States Vice President Joe Biden. And when his favourite railroad conductor dies in a suspicious accident, leaving behind an ailing wife and a trail of clues, Amtrak Joe unwittingly finds himself in the role of private investigator. To crack the case and uncover a drug smuggling ring hiding in plain sight, he'll team up with the only man he's ever fully trusted, the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. Together, they'll plumb the darkest corners of Wilmington, Delaware, where enemies lurk around every corner, and if they're not careful, the blood on the tracks may be their own. This quirky comic mystery begins 6 months after the 2016 presidential election, as Obama and Biden are struggling to define their post-White House identities and question what truly remains of their legendary bromance.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
really, really
I'm
good.
all about that.
I'm really looking forward to this.
I think this is
Okay,
gonna be
so I think we decided that we're going to give ourselves 2 weeks to read this. Is that
Yeah.
right? So we will be back in a fortnight. Please do leave us a comment and whether we have inspired you to go and read The Adventures of not a Gingerbread Willie. That's a whole different book. Adventures of Gingerbread Willie.
Helen, you should write The Adventures of Gingerbread Willie.
Yes,
I think
and then we can
I
review that.
I would read
It
that.
could be like a
We can just start
Twilight.
reviewing our own books. It'll be great.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
What I love about the one that we're reading next week, so The Hope Never Dies, is that it's the first in a Biden-Obama mystery series. So there is a sequel if we enjoy it. There is Hope Rides Again as well.
Amazing.
So I'm very excited. And for those of you that might consider reading it, it is only £1.46 on Kindle.
There you go.
So it's not going to be
complete
bad.
bargain compared to the £2.90 that this costs.
$17 on Amazon.com, I think you find. Gingerbread Willie was. I mean, Deborah L Blake, whatever her name is rolling in her Gingerbread Willie money right now.
I see you rolling in your gingerbread Willie money.
You've had enough to drink, Helen.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to go the same way as Mark Cahill, so maybe I'll stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time to wean you off the moonshine and get you reading the other book, I think.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Great. So we will see everyone in a fortnight.
Awesome.
Indeed. Thanks for tuning
Say
in, guys.
bye.
Thanks for
Say
tuning in.
bye.
Oh, bye, little ratty. Bye.